Hello, welcome to Pure Portugal. We've got a really fabulous interview today, or webinar today, with Tig James from British in Portugal. She's going to be helping us with the mind-boggling topic of residency, which I'm sure most people will probably recoil at, Tig. So thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, obviously, this is going to be answering lots of questions that people have sent in to us over the recent weeks and months, and that I see regularly on the Pure Portugal Living the Good Life page as well, which is all pre-Brexit. So just to be clear to people here, we can't give you info really on what's going to be happening after Brexit, because we don't really know. Tig doesn't know, as much as she is a font of all knowledge. Nobody really knows what's going on yet. So we will do a follow-up on that sort of thing. So thank you very much, Tig, for being here, and hopefully you can unravel some of the confusion. It'd be great.
Yeah, no, I can certainly try. I mean, one of the things is that, those that don't know me, obviously my name's Tig James, and I lead British in Portugal Facebook group with Rory Stewart and a team. And basically we are a citizens' rights group for UK nationals in the EU. We're fighting for our rights that are going to be lost because of Brexit, and the numerous rights, including freedom of movement, which is basically, it is causing the problems for residency, isn't it? That's the issue.
Yeah.
People are starting to panic now because the 31st of December has come around really, really fast. And you know, it's just difficult, and actually trying to get the correct information is hard for people. And I mean, really, that's one of the reasons that British in Portugal has been so successful, is because, you know, this all started because we were searching for information and couldn't find any. And that then grew into British in Portugal being affiliated to British in Europe, which of course is the team that talked to the EU Parliament, talked to the British government, and I'm the British in Europe representative for Portugal as well. So thankfully and very gratefully, I'm keyed into pretty much what is going on, you know, the latest things. So yeah, it's just been a really confusing time for many people. And I really do understand that confusion, because, as I say, this is how it started.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you would think would be not a straightforward process. Obviously, it's a big process to undertake, but something that you would think there would be some relatively clear definitions and outlines for. It really isn't the case, and we see all the time through Pure Portugal. We have people asking questions all the time, which are quite hard to answer sometimes, actually, because obviously, as you know, one rule for one is not the same as for somebody else. And in one part of Portugal, unfortunately, people are having one experience, and in another part, and sometimes actually even in the same camera, it's not even, it might just be the person they see on the day that actually changes the experience. So it's really, really hard to give people some really clearly defined information without Brexit then being on top of things and causing even more confusion. I think it's just thrown the whole thing into a bit of a snowball.
I mean, basically, before people come to Portugal, what they need to, we all say this, is patience. You need patience. Okay? And quite rightly, I mean, what the main question is people ask me daily, many times, is how do I get EU residency?
Yeah.
Because if we can just make the definition between EU residency and what happens afterwards, after the 31st of December 2020, is basically you are no longer an EU citizen as far as the transition period is concerned under the Withdrawal Agreement. The 31st of December, from the 1st of January 2021, UK nationals then become third country nationals, such as Australians, Canadians, Chinese, you know, anybody that is outside the EU as such, because we're no longer an EU country. It's absolutely irrelevant to residency if you own a mansion, if you own a carpet rug in Portugal is absolutely irrelevant. It's your nationality that confers EU residency. If you're an EU citizen, you get EU residency. One of the myths that very much has been floating around is if you own a property, it's not an issue. That is so not the case. It's your nationality.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying about how it's been so hard to define what you actually need to get EU residency. The biggest problem, as you've said, is that, first of all, you need to go to your local camera to get residency. Now, the camera office where you live, you cannot go to the camera office. It's in a specific area of where your address is.
And you have to go in person. You can't have this done by a lawyer on your behalf or done from another country. You have to be there physically, don't you?
You have to be here to do it. You have to be in Portugal. Now, as far as residency is concerned, I can give you, there's 5 things that people essentially need when they go to a camera office. What everybody needs to bear in mind is this is not set in stone. If you have the 5 things, then you will get residency.
Okay, great.
Each camera differs into what they ask. So it's just a case of, oh my goodness, but if you have everything that you could possibly need, then, and it literally is down to who manages each camera department. And as you've alluded to before, each camera can vary dependent on the member of staff that you get.
Yeah. It does seem a bit of luck of the draw sometimes for some people, doesn't it?
It's very much so.
Yeah.
But basically, so you need to go to your local camera. The first thing is it's going to cost you €15. Okay.
Per person, right? Okay.
Well, that's per adult.
Okay.
A child is €7.50.
Okay, great. That's good.
You need, because this is for all EU citizens. This is just as UK nationals. This is for all. So you need an EU passport. As in the case for UK nationals, it'll be your UK passport. So that's 2 things. The third thing, now this is, some ask for this, some don't, definitely, but your Nif number, and that's the number you get when you go to the financials office, where we all know you cannot move without your Nif number, and it's basically a tax number in Portugal.
It's easy to get as well, isn't it? I mean, I know people really stress about it. It sounds really like scary and big, but actually, of all the things I think I ever did in Portugal in the early days, that was one of the easiest things. It just took 5 minutes. So quick to do. You just walk in. And the closest equivalent I think we have to that is the national insurance number. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All it is, it's nothing frightening, but you cannot move here. You cannot buy a property. You cannot get an official receipt without your Nif number. So counts everything, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So so far we've got Nif number, your UK passport, €15 or €7.50. You then need proof of an address. You don't own a property, but if you do, you can take in the deeds or proof that, obviously that's where you live or whatever. If you don't own it, a rental agreement. And this is where a lot of people have come unstuck, because, of course, in Portugal, as we all know, there's a lot of people living under the wire and they haven't got contracts for where they rent. Well, unfortunately, that's what you need. You need proof that you live at an address. So without it, you can't prove it. The 5th thing that you may need, is proof of income. Yes. Now, proof of income in itself, if you're asked for it, will be approximately €605 per month for an individual, and approximately €900 for a couple. So could that be shown as a lump sum of savings, or would that need to be shown as a monthly sort of something coming in every month over like 3 bank statements or something like that? How do they look at that? Do you know? You can, if you can prove monthly income, that's great. Savings are also taken into account. You can go in with savings. Again,
Each camera differs as to what is an acceptable amount.
Okay.
So there's no fixed figure. I've not, well, there may be, but I've not come across it yet.
No, it doesn't seem to be. I mean, I didn't get asked for anything like that. And actually 90% of people I know haven't been asked for that either. But I do hear of people who have been, and it seems to, there's no rhyme or reason, is there? It just seems to happen sometimes. Yeah.
And again, it's each camera office, the boss interprets the legislation.
Yeah.
To see fit.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's how it is. The one thing that I would like to say to people is you have to be realistic about your savings. The cameras are. If they ask for savings, if you come in and say, well, look, you know, I've got 100 grand in savings and I want to live here for the next 20 years, you divide that down by 20 years per annum. It is not a lot of money. 100,000, you know, you divide it by 10 years. It's 10,000 a year. You divide it by 20, that's 5,000 euros a year. I would live on 5,000 euros, or even attempt to live on 5,000 euros a year. However cheap it is here, it's so please be realistic. Do the sums, work it out how much that will give you in the amount of time that you actually want to spend in Portugal. And if you're in your 40s and it's for the rest of your life, it's not a lot of money. It seems it, but it actually isn't if you're not going to work.
Okay, great. So people might be asked for that. There is no way of telling. I see people ask all the time, has anybody got residency at this camera before? Did you get asked this? And you'll end up I see 400 different answers that are all completely different. So it's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah. And also on all of the things, proof of income, proof of pretty much you're asked for an address for very obvious reasons. You know, they want to know where you live. But Nif, most people do get asked for income. Some do, some don't. But like I say, it's a lottery.
Yeah. So best to have all of that if you want to not be stressing about it, and you want to be able to walk in and know you can walk in and walk back out with the right papers.
If you have those 5 things, which let's be honest, aren't difficult, your NIF number you've got to have anyway, your passport you've got to have, the money you've got to have, and you know, the proof of income, proof of an address, it's fairly, they're going to ask you your address.
Yeah.
It's whether or not they ask you for proof of it.
Yeah.
But most do. So
assuming you walk in and you have all of these bits all there and ready, and your cash ready to pay and etc., you can walk back out with your piece of paper that is your residency.
Hopefully. Okay, hopefully. Now, what does sometimes happen is that you will be, some people are given residency for 6 months, 12 months. Now, you would be given residency for 5 years.
Yes.
And that's called temporary residency. Now, temporary residency is nothing of the sort. It's not temporary. It is when you walk into a camera, and I think this is what a lot of people, certainly a lot of UK nationals that I've come across, think that when you walk into a camera and you ask for residency, that it's just a bit of paper. It isn't. It is a legal statement saying that you live in Portugal permanently for more than 6 months of the year. And to walk in and basically under the withdrawal agreement, when you declare that you are a resident, have residency in Portugal, you are saying that pre the 1st of January 2021, you are a resident in Portugal, and post the 31st of December 2020, you will be living in Portugal.
Okay.
That legal statement that you literally do reside in Portugal. And if you don't get residency after the 31st of December 2020, you will be an illegal immigrant.
Is there something, you just reminds me in saying what you say now, I've seen a few people make comments over the last maybe couple of weeks or so. I haven't seen anything beforehand about something to the middle of next year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to clarify.
Okay.
Okay, you get to I think what I'm trying to say is we know that there are at least 25,000 UK nationals in Portugal who do not have residency. Okay. You have to arrive in Portugal pre the 1st of January 2021 to get EU residency.
Okay.
Now, if you arrive before the 1st of January next year, you then have until the 30th of June 2021 in which to apply, in which to register for residency. Okay.
Which you should have done anyway, really, because I guess you're supposed to apply within 3 months, aren't you? So really, you should have been doing that by March at the latest, really.
Latest, or you commit an offence.
Yeah.
Okay. However, and I know that this is something because obviously we work with the British Embassy, and it's something that we've discussed many times. If you are here, go and get your residency, because it has so much. There are knock-on effects that if you don't do that. Also, we all know in Portugal when there's a changeover of systems, which there are going to be at the end of the year, that there's going to be confusion. There's confusion now in the Centro de Saúde, the health centres, about how people, UK nationals, are registered. It's so much so that the British Embassy actually gave us leaflets to distribute.
Right.
In the Centro de Saúde, the health centres, so UK nationals could walk in and say, "Oh, look, that's your leaf. That's a poster on your wall. Here's a leaf for how people should be registered," because there was so many people being registered incorrectly. Well, all I think I'm trying to say is yes, you're quite right. After 3 months, it's an offence if you live here not to get residency. And can you imagine the confusion that there is going to be at the end of this year?
Absolutely, I know.
If you're here in Portugal, I see absolutely no reason why people aren't getting residency. Why would you not want to? Before the end of the year, to save yourself all that hassle, all that confusion. And of course, so many people leave things to the last minute. And I can assure you, and we already see it now, December's coming around, we're getting more and more inquiries, and it goes in peaks and troughs with the no deal, with the withdrawal agreement, panic. When December comes, I know that there is going to be a massive rush to Portugal, and camera officers are going to get absolutely inundated. And for goodness sakes, people, just go. It's pretty simple.
And I guess you're going to have to be able to prove that you have been in Portugal since December / the very beginning of January anyway, because they're going to expect to see some form of evidence to say, whether that's some sort of ferry ticket or something to show that you arrived before that date, not actually in March, and are then applying in June or whatever.
Absolutely. We don't actually know what that proof is going to be that you So from the 1st of January next year, you are going to be asked for proof that you were in Portugal in 2020.
What though, we don't know yet. I guess that will come clear.
Plane tickets, ferry tickets, I don't know, a receipt with your Nif number on.
There'll be some way of proving. I mean, we can all prove there's always electronic transfer somewhere, isn't there? So
but they will ask for proof, and quite right.
I guess this is something that if we have a follow-up video about, once obviously the post-Brexit fallout has become clear and we know what the rules are going to be, that will be something that we'll find out at that time as well. I'm imagining what they're going to be asking for as your evidence there as well.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that what people need to remember is that if you come into Portugal, if you are here, you need documentation. It's that simple to say that you live here legally. And I mean, yes, we can say that people have, until the 30th of June next year. But we all know here you get stopped by the police. You get asked for residency documents every which way. Even when you go to the post office, you get asked for residency documents. Just to
Yeah.
passport.
Yeah.
It will make your life so difficult. And also, don't forget, from the 1st of January, you are no longer an EU citizen. You don't have freedom of movement. You are a country national. And that as well, going on from that, when you apply as a third country national next year, if you arrive in Portugal from the 1st of January, you will have to apply as a third country national. The conditions are far more stringent and more difficult. They're not. Don't get me wrong; they're not impossible, but they're hard. They're hard. Then they're straight walking into the camera.
By far away the easiest way is a few pieces of paper and you're done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you walk into, you know, sort of at the moment you walk into the camera, you have those pieces of paper. They have to give you residence. It's not, you're not applying where you can be turned down. If you meet the criteria, which you do, they have to give it you.
Yeah.
When you apply for residency as a third country national, they can turn you down.
Yeah. And we're still yet to find out what the basis for these, you know, what those sort of applications will be, aren't we? I suppose, you know, we'll yet to find out exactly what they're going to be expecting people to show or do or apply with.
Not sort of is my answer to that, which is if you go onto the SCF, which for those that don't know, the SCF website is the Immigration Department website.
Put a link in the comments when I share the video. Yeah,
you can just put capital letters scf.pt and it takes you straight through, and it is in English as well. If you go on there, it will give you the conditions that are needed as a third country national.
Yeah,
so, you know, whether there will be any special conditions for UK nationals when we become third country nationals, we don't know.
Okay.
But seriously, guys, for all the rumours and whatever, it's unlikely. If you logically, why would they treat us any differently? And, you know, yes, it's their country, but they're also they're members of the EU and they abide by it.
They've got lots of people to please, haven't they? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So the thing is if you go on the SDF website, you will be able to find out the conditions there, and you will see and it isn't a case of just popping in and getting it.
Yeah. I mean, and as you say, you know, all is not lost. We know there's so many people who, unfortunately, especially with the virus the way it's been this year, things have really put a stop to some people's plans, and there are people who cannot, with the best will in the world, cannot move over before the Brexit deadline. That's just not going to happen. In the same way that people have wanted to move to America and Australia and dozens of other countries, you know, it is still going to be possible, but the big flashing lights is not going to be as easy. It will not be as straightforward as now. Yeah.
And you know, you will have to jump through more hoops, and why make it more difficult for yourself?
And possibly will cost more money as well, I'm imagining, because there's going to be a lot more requirements that come with it, aren't there? You know, so people can still buy property in Portugal if they want. If there are people watching now who are saying, well, we can't move for 5 years anyway, but we want to buy a house we can holiday in or rent out or whatever. People can still buy a property in the same way they can from any other country. It's not a requirement to be a resident in order to buy a piece of land or a property. No. It's just if you want to reside in Portugal for a certain amount of time, effectively. You know, if you're in Portugal for over the 90 days that you're allowed at the moment. And obviously, post-Brexit, we'll see what goes on, what happens after that.
Hang on, let's go back on the 90 days allowed. That you know, the 90 days allowed. You're allowed to be in Portugal, and then you do commit an offence.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't have residency, that obviously causes problems for people that have houses here but don't live here. But going back to the 90 days, what happens is if you're a third country national. So from that, which is exactly what will be from the 1st of January. From then, you will only be able to stay in the Schengen area. So that's the EU countries plus the other few. Yeah. This is the whole of the Schengen area, not per country. Yeah. 90 days out of a rolling 180.
Okay, got you. Okay, so it's not a case of popping to Spain Because like you see all these people saying, oh, just pop to Spain for a couple of weeks and come back again. And obviously it's not that it's covering all of that area. So you are void from that area effectively.
What people also are tending to forget as well, when you get off the ferry or you go through the tunnel, you are in France or Spain.
Mm-hmm.
You are now in the Schengen area. When the countries you travel through, you are in the Schengen area. That counts. So from the moment you put your toe on Schengen area soil, day one.
Yeah, okay.
Not when you get to Portugal, because that's your destination. No. And it's certain. And also, if you dial that one back as well, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, if I just hop over to Spain and come back. No, you're in the Schengen area.
Yeah.
So going across an EU border or into no difference whatsoever.
So you've got 90 days. Did you say 90 days out of 180? Did you say 180 days?
Rolling 180. Yeah. So basically, if you've been in Portugal again 90 days and you look back at the previous 180. You can no longer, you have to have only been in Portugal or in the Schengen area for 90 days out of the previous 180.
Great. Okay. That's great. That really clears up a lot, actually, because again, that's something that there is so much confusion on, and people are adamant that it's one way or another. And it's good to know that. So thank you very much for clearing that side of it up. And obviously, the other part of it is the residency. We get lots of questions about how it's going to affect things like medical care and being able to work, and so many different things that come up. And getting residency is it's a key part of actually living and getting on in Portugal, isn't it? There's so many elements of your life that will be affected by it.
I think as well is that, and I mean, there's two distinctions, aren't there? That there are people. Actually, there's three. You've got the people that are here in Portugal already, who've got residency. You've got people in Portugal already that haven't got residency. You're then going to have people coming. Actually, there's four, isn't there? Then you're going to have people coming into Portugal between now and December, end of December, and then you've got people coming into Portugal from the 1st of January.
Yeah.
Now, so if you're in Portugal before the 1st of January, you then have until the 30th of June next year to get your residency. Don't advocate it for all the reasons we've said. But if you come as a UK national into Portugal from the 1st of January, you are a third country national. And if you don't get residency, you will be an illegal immigrant. Mm-hmm. And all of the force of the law is then against you. Mm-hmm. You are an illegal immigrant. And if people are in Portugal now, don't get their residency, before the 30th of June next year, you are illegal immigrants. And we've heard it many times, but we're British. It makes no difference whatsoever. Your nationality, you're still an illegal immigrant. It doesn't matter where you were born or what your passport says.
What's the situation? There's a couple of people who've been asking about the situation if they were living in Portugal. And this happens in the UK as well. There are people who live in a country, so they want to be resident in a country, but they also have to work abroad as well. Do we know yet how does that affect things at the moment? I'm assuming we wouldn't know for future reference post Brexit, but at the moment, if somebody has a business in the UK, for example, and therefore they need to be in the UK for some period of the year, is there a clause in that law that enables that, or do you know how that works?
The thing is as a UK national, you can go as often as you like to the UK because you're a citizen of that country. Yeah. That makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. You're allowed free entry and exit, even though it could
affect your residency though in Portugal, no? In terms of how whether you can keep it.
Yeah, but what I was going to say was you can go back to the UK as much as you like. Right. However, you have to spend more than 6 months of a year in Portugal to retain your residency.
Okay, got you.
As third country nationals, it suddenly gets an awful lot more serious.
Yeah.
As far going back to what you were saying about the work and business, that basically just has not been decided yet. This is part of the trade agreement that is at the moment allegedly being negotiated, whatever that means, with all the ruffle. That's part of that. We just don't know, because
so we'll come back to that when we know more. You know, we'll wait for that to be agreed. For the time being, though, based on right now, as in we are part of the EU, people getting, you know, can apply for their Portuguese residency. The rules are that you have to be in Portugal for 6 months of the year to continue to maintain your residency if you're going to be working in the UK or elsewhere. Okay, more than 6 months. Okay. Yeah.
And the thing as well is because as a UK citizen, you can go as much as you like to the UK, that your entry, as in no visas because you're a citizen. But what people need to be very aware of, and this is completely out of my experience and knowledge, but I do know people have to be very careful if you're a Portuguese resident as to how that affects your tax liability in the UK.
Yeah.
So we know that people can be limited as to how much time they can spend in the UK, or they do become tax liable. And that is the full extent of my knowledge on that.
Yeah, that's something for a tax specialist, isn't it? For sure. We've got some great guys on the directory. Again, you know, I can link things like that to people whenever, and they're the people for that. That's why we pay them to do that sort of job, isn't it? They know those sort of rules. They're blooming confusing.
There's only so much one head can take in.
No, they make my brain spin. I don't like rules like that. It makes me confused. And is the application process for residency at the moment the same in places like the Azores? And I mean, I know people sometimes feel like the Azores is like like with Madeira, that it's a separate sort of entity in its own right. Do you know, is the residency application process at the moment the same? Would they expect the same in the camera there?
Pretty much. I was reading something the other day because what happens is that once you get your 5-year residency, I'm not aware, as far as I'm aware, yes, it is. It is the same in the Azores and Madeira. But I do know that you may, on the mainland, what we do is that once you've got your 5-year residency, your 5-year temporary residency, that when it comes to up to 3 months before, excuse that noise. It's downstairs,
hard at work.
When you're coming up to renewing your 5-year temporary residency, 3 months before the expiration date, you can then go to any SCF office in Portugal. It doesn't have to be the one in your area. It can be any SCF office to get it renewed up to 3 months prior.
Okay.
So you can go to the SCF website and get it renewed. Now, as far as I'm aware, in the Azores, and I know certainly in the Azores, I think they actually go back to the camera, but I'm not certain on that. And that may be the Madeira, and it's just simply because they're islands and they do their own thing.
Yeah, so it's much the same process. It might just be when it comes to the renewal, it's different. That's all.
Process. Nobody has said to me any differently that it isn't. I haven't been over there to see it. I don't know, but I'm sure even if it was, if you went to the camera, they'd tell you. But absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
But one of the things is as well is and I know it's something you and I have discussed before, Claire. Residency is basically the foundation stone that then lets you in to do all sorts of other different things.
Yeah.
Because residency, you cannot register for your healthcare.
It's such a biggie, isn't it? I don't think people understand how much that can impact them. Yeah. Anyone can have an accident or something can happen, and it does happen, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So once you've got your residency, so you would go. The process would be Nif, residency. Then sort out your healthcare. Is that correct? In that sort of order? Okay.
In that order. And the reason that you do it in that order is because you go to your local Centro de Saúde health centre, but you can register at any health centre. And the other problem with that as well is there's a number of health centres that are now full and aren't taking new patients.
Wow.
So you may go to your local one and it may be full and they'll just go, no, sorry, you can't register here. And you just then have to keep trogging around each one until you can register. Okay.
Well, this happens in the UK, doesn't it? And I'm sure other parts of Europe as well, where you go to your sort of local area sort of whatever the district doctor's office is, and if they're full and they're not taking on any new patients, it's the same with dentists, everything. You have to just go to the one up the road, don't you, and go to the next one along until you find one that's got room. So that's exactly the same thing. Okay.
Exactly the same thing. Now, the reason that is so important is because then it entitles you to state healthcare. The only thing you need to register for healthcare is your passport, is to be an EU citizen, and your residency card, obviously, or paper. Depending on which one, your residency piece of paper from the camera, you get a card from the SEF once you renew it. Okay. But you must register, and then what you will be allocated is a healthcare number.
Okay.
It's your National Health Service number, your NHS number that you get the same as that. And once you get this number, that means that they can then put that number in a computer barcode on your prescriptions, and you get a substantial discount for your medication. Okay. It used to be 60%. I think it still is around that. So it's nothing to be sniffed at if you need medication. Second major point about registering for healthcare is that you actually need a medical to exchange your driving license, and you cannot get that medical through to the IMT office where you go to exchange your driving license unless you have a healthcare number.
Okay.
Medical. You don't have to go to your Centro de Saúde to get the medical. You can go to a private healthcare for that to do that, but as you
need a number
without that number at all.
And again, we've got a really good article on our guides page of the website, which is all about exchanging your driving license. For some people, it's not relevant straight away. Obviously, some people it is. But again, so this again, it goes back to that process, doesn't it? So now it's going to be the Nif, the residency, healthcare, get that sorted, and then driving license. So you cannot jump the order in this. You need to follow that pattern through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with the driving license, some people, I don't want to give up my UK driving license or whatever. Yeah, I get it. But at the end of the day, you're in an EU country. The advice from the embassy is exchange. And we concur with that at British in Portugal, because to put it very simply, it's about getting all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, and it's not a hard thing to do either. It doesn't need to be something that's scary. It's no different to sorting out your Nif number and getting a doctor, is it? It's really it's just another piece of paperwork that you need to get done, of course, but it isn't something that's scary and awful. Just because you have to go and get your healthcare number and get a check done, it's not, there's not some extra test required or something like that, And
the thing is that what people need to be very, very careful of is that when you come in as a third country national from the 1st of January, you then have to exchange your driving license. Now, the amount of days has escaped me. I think it's 60, within 60 days of residency.
Yeah, I've got that on the guide, yeah.
It's either 60 or 90. I think it's 60, or you have to take a driving test. Driving test. So for goodness sakes, guys, if you're coming to Portugal as a third country national, for goodness sakes, exchange your driving, get your residency ASAP and exchange that driving license.
And that's more than enough time as well to get all of these things done, isn't it? There's plenty of time to get all these bits of things done.
Don't confuse the two, because this is for people that arrive from the 1st of January onwards.
Yeah, not now. Yeah.
Not now. Now, there's a little bit of confusion because because at the moment you have the facility to register your driving license at IMT or exchange it. And people don't want to exchange. Some don't want to exchange it. At the moment, and of course, that is from the 10th of September, 2020 today, we're saying that you may be able to do that for another 2 years from the end of this year. The key word on that is may.
Yeah.
We literally are playing this by ear, day by day, as to what is
all the time, isn't it? Yeah.
And I understand that people, in the UK, that they want to keep their UK driving license because they've got their own car over there and whatever. But the days are now gone of keeping a foot in both camps. Those days are over. It's part of what people voted for, or so they said. But this is it. This is what that vote is. When people voted for Brexit, they stopped all of the corroboration between all the documents and whatever. People are going to have to choose. Do they live in Portugal or do they live in the UK? And if they decide to live in the UK, there's restrictions. If they decide to live in Portugal, there's restrictions. And they have to change. It's the way it is. And you can't get round that. Now, or you can try, but you'll be doing it illegally.
Don't try. Don't do that.
Please don't do that. And one of the things, can I just say, guys, that it'd be great to see so many coming onto British and Portugal, and it'd be great, but we are straight down the line and we do everything legally, and we do not condone anybody trying to get around the rules.
It's a snowball as well, isn't it? Because where does it end? It's got to be cut and dry, especially with what you guys do, where you're giving out such great advice. To allow it negates the good advice you're giving if you then allow people to talk about skirting around the law or something. It's just not something you can do, is it? So
no, not at all.
I'm trying to think if there's any other questions we were asked. Is there anything else at all that you know of that we've?
Let me just have a quick look.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a little look on here as well.
See if there's anything.
Work in the UK too. Yeah, we've covered the work side.
Oh, I know. No, we did cover the work, didn't we? We were saying
we got so many questions in, and a lot of them are the same type. I think we've covered the bulk of the confusion, which obviously the main part was to cover the process. What do you need? Fact, and in what order do you do all of these things that have got to be done, which obviously is great, but we've cleared that bit up. So I think that's a big part of the confusion.
There's one question that you sent me that I had a look at, when people say, can UK nationals still fly to Portugal? Of course you can. The only thing that is stopping you are COVID-19 rules and regulations, which obviously change daily, as we're seeing.
Just to make it more exciting. Exactly.
Just throw everybody's holidays up the shoe.
Which actually, while I remember, Safe Communities Portugal are absolutely amazing for information. We've been working with them the whole time through, before, but also through this complete nightmare. And if anybody needs any info on that, it's a Facebook page. There is a website as well, but the Facebook group is fab, and it's always up to date.
We actually work with Safe Communities Portugal.
Oh, you do? I didn't realise that. Yeah, we do, and they're super, aren't they? They're so reliable.
Yeah, they're actually British Embassy stakeholders as we are.
Yes, that's right.
And we actually had a meeting with them in March at the Ambassador's House, and where the embassy gave us we all got together and we all sat down and we had this workshop on citizens' rights. UK citizens' rights, to just try and get everything and it were all in one place, all together.
What a powerhouse. There's some great people in that room then.
It was excellent. It was excellent, and it was very, very well done by the embassy. It just sort of like cemented everything that we knew. And it also, there's still a long way to go as to what rights we'll be entitled to that still need to be negotiated. I mean, for instance, British in Europe, freedom of movement. Guys, I know that there's no freedom of movement from the EU to the UK, and that's what the British government is saying. What they're failing to say is that UK nationals lose freedom of movement to 27 countries.
Exactly.
We have now lost that.
Yeah.
I know one more question, Claire, that came up that is asked me a lot as well. If you have residency in Portugal, does that mean you have freedom of movement around the EU and can live?
Yeah, good question, actually. Yeah.
The answer is absolutely not.
Okay.
If you have Portuguese residency, you will then be subject to the 90-day rule out of 180-day rule in any other country, in any other Schengen area country. So having Portuguese residency makes no difference whatsoever.
It's going to suddenly give you the freedom of Europe. Yeah.
Except in Portugal with Portuguese residency, you can stay here as long as you like.
Which makes sense because it's residency to reside in that country, isn't it? You're not an EU citizen. You're a resident of a country within the EU. Yeah, got you. Okay.
That's all you are from 1st of January. Your freedom of movement is lost in every other Schengen area country.
Okay, yeah, that's good to clear that up. Actually, that's a really good key point. I mean, I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think certainly they are the main questions that we get asked all the time, and I'm super grateful, Tig. You know, the work you guys do on the Facebook group, which again I will link in our in the actual page tag itself, so people can come over and find you and ask any other questions and find out any other info. And you guys have been really, I think we would have been all quite lost without you, actually. You know, thank you so much for the time and effort you've put in, because it's really appreciated.
Can I say something? You know, we are the British in Portugal page. The Brits in Portugal is the embassy page.
Yes.
They also have the Living in Portugal page on gov.uk. British in Portugal is who we are.
Yeah.
We've got links on there as well that are affiliated to British in Europe, which are giving the general overall stance of exactly what the withdrawal agreement is saying.
Okay.
And I mean, then we can go into all sorts of stuff like family reunification, relationships that start after the 1st of January, who can come in, who can't come in under EU. There's so much there that so many people just are not aware of. And if they could please read the announcements, and it will save you an hour of reading. Will save you.
There's tons of info on there, isn't there, as well? Just searching sometimes for the answer, and in the files is just. You can find a heap of info that way as well, and the most up to date as well, because you can see the date things are posted on. Yeah, we will also make sure that we catch up with you post negotiations, and then obviously we can give people some more definitive info from the point of going forward as well, hopefully.
One last point: this is going to be rolling on for a long time. This is not going to end on the 31st of December. There are so many negotiations still in the pipeline. There's court cases about our rights that we have lost. This is not going to end the end of this year. And it's going to roll on for a few, and things are going to change. Everything is sorted just because Happy New Year in January. True. And people need to be very aware of that and need to get themselves as up to date as possible.
Yeah.
What we have, go in the announcements, read them, please read them. And one woman on British in Portugal put it very succinctly. She said, "You've answered questions I didn't even know I had to ask."
And that's the key. That's the key, because if you don't know, you don't know, and that can be a really expensive mistake. You know, it can change your life literally at the moment. It really can. Yeah. Oh, Tig, honestly, well, look, thank you so much again. I was so grateful for your time and all of the effort you put in to helping people. It's so appreciated, and I know you've helped thousands and thousands of people. So really, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure everybody will be very grateful at Pure Portugal as well. So thank you again.
Okay, thanks, Claire.
All right, we'll see you on the other side of the agreement. Take care. Bye-bye.